crazy?
I know. When did you move in?
End of October.
Okay. I was like, I feel like November.
It's a little bit of like work in progress. I'm still like layering, but it's good.
So this was his original business card, and then I'm having someone switch it to like my name.
Ooh, Emmy. Which was it for the styling of the show?
Yeah, for the reel.
That is so crazy.
Welcome to my new series called Inside the Dress Up Closet, and this is really just all about hanging out with people that I love to hang out with and also really just getting inside of creative brains and talking about just inspiration. I'm always looking for inspiration, so I want to like soak up as much as I can from people who I admire. And this person is somebody I admire. This is Chelsea Von Mach. You can say hello.
Hello, hello. I feel so honored.
My very first official guest on this series. And we're gonna rewind maybe 15 plus?
Probably 15 plus, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I think
Actually
I was
longer.
like, yeah, I think I was 19 or
Oh my
20,
gosh.
and I'm 37 now.
And I'm 44. Yeah, it's been a while. So rewind a long time ago, Chelsea and I met in a very interesting way. We both got invited to go to a reality show.
For was it Elle magazine?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
For
yeah.
a reality show called Stylista.
I honestly don't remember the name. I just remember it was Elle magazine.
Yes, Elle magazine. And I walked into a hotel room, ballroom, and I think you came up to me, right?
Yeah, I did. Because I followed you. I started following you when I was in college. I'm
gosh.
and all of a sudden I saw you walk into a hotel. I was like, oh my God, that's Beth Jones. Like, I thought I was seeing a celebrity. When I went up to her, I admire you so much, and I follow your blog. It was just like very exciting because I had just moved to LA too.
Yeah, so we totally became little buddies during this weird day auditioning for a reality show that I did not get. I think I said 2 words, and then they were like, okay, thank you for your time. You're too normal. Hi. And then you just never turned in.
Yeah, I think I got a call back, but then I never turned in
Like
the paperwork. I don't know why.
Yeah. But then Chelsea has had an incredible career over the last 15 plus years as that's been. Tell just a quick little run through of your career.
So I moved out here, went to FITM, and I really wanted to be a stylist. So as soon as I graduated school, I started assisting people like Rachel Zoe, Janie Bryan. I never thought I would get into TV and film, but sort of like fell into it because my first job out of college was like the remake of Melrose Place. So from then I sort of like went back and forth between TV and film, red carpet, that sort of thing. And then my last job was this talk show called The Real. Did that for 5 years, styled with the host, Jeannie Mai. And then after that, COVID happened. And I just sort of started like reevaluating what I really wanted to do. And I had always dabbled in vintage, but never really thought I'd be able to like have a store in LA, honestly, because it almost seemed impossible. I went back to another show after COVID, working with this amazing costume designer, Shirley Carrata. Like, I've always wanted to work for her. She did Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And she was so amazing to work for, but I just didn't want to do TV and film anymore. Like, I needed a break, so I ended up quitting that job, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I started selling vintage on Instagram, and then sort of one thing led to another, where Brooke from Carney Couture had a spot in Santa Monica and sort of like said there was another opening, and one thing led to another, and now I'm over here in West Adams. Yeah.
In a brand new location, and really just for me making magic all the time. Honestly, Chelsea is my first check-in if I open Instagram, because
oh my God.
I'm not kidding.
Are you
I am not kidding. I'm like, the bubble pops up, there's highlighted around the circle, and I'm like, ooh, what's Chelsea's brain thinking about right now?
I feel so honored because I feel sometimes like discouraged in creating content because I don't feel like I do do things that are like popular for everyone, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's magical.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And honestly, I've
Yeah.
had multiple conversations with people about you.
Really?
And like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love Chelsea. And they're like, oh, I know. Her stories are so good. I'm like, I know. And it just, I think it's not popular, which makes it so
Yeah.
good. Like
Yeah.
you get into the nitty gritty of what inspired you or things that are inspiring your connections to vintage. And then I feel like it's this creative consciousness.
Yeah,
if I'm
I
saying
think
that
that's,
word correctly.
I feel like that's what I go.
Yeah, and it to me
into.
is so inspiring, and that is why I wanted to come and sit down with you, was because I think we're so overloaded with the same of the same of the same. And honestly, even some of the print magazines, it's like regurgitation of what was on the runway. And so and I get it, the money in print is not there as much.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm always looking in desperate need of like freshness and fresh ideas. And you are always
I
doing
appreciate that. I feel like our brains work in the same
Yeah.
way of how we like, because I feel like we grew up like reading magazines when magazines were really good.
Yes.
So I feel like I sort of like follow that sort of format when I'm like doing stories.
Yes. As we're talking about just even like growing up, I would love to just dive in a little bit to who you were in terms of fashion and what did that look like exploring your personal style, and maybe you didn't, and maybe, or what were your inspirations, just a little kind of snippet of growing up with your personal style.
I don't know if I was like always into fashion growing up, but I was really into like creative things or just interesting things. And I think that's how I started like thrifting and vintage shopping, because I wanted things that were different from other people. I grew up wearing a uniform my whole life because I went to Catholic school.
Yeah.
So maybe it was like a rebellion into like from wearing the uniform type of thing.
You're in Girls Just Want to Have Fun, re-envisioning the uniform, Helen Hunt and Sarah Jessica Parker.
I don't know. I don't know if like I knew having a career in fashion was actually attainable growing up in Michigan, or not saying that I needed some like direction, but I didn't really have anyone to sort of look to model that off of. But it's so funny because I found one of my baby books when I was home last, and my mom wrote in my baby book when I was born, like, what is she going to be when she grows up? And she wrote an artist, and that's all she wrote. But it might have been like a manifestation of something she wanted growing up, which was like, I thought was super interesting.
Yeah. Very similarly, I grew up on a small island in the South. I also was in the 80s, so no exposure to anything. And all I had was magazines. So I do think it was harder to almost like form your personal style because you only knew what was around you in a way. Or movies and things like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of that time, is there kind of a moment or maybe an outfit or something that you just like really remember being kind of defining or magical for you, or that you wore or just kind of sparked something?
This is probably so silly, but maybe like my first communion outfit. Like I felt like all the girls just wore like really pretty white dresses, and I picked the one with like the big poofy sleeves and the big poofy skirt and like a really big veil. Like I feel like I looked like an 80s bride.
Yes.
And I'm like the tallest one there, standing next to like my other friends, and I look like so ridiculous. I'm like, I can't believe my mom sort of like let me pick this out and wear it, but I used it for my biopic for a little bit.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna put this picture up if you've got those images that we definitely need to. Now, normally, when we get into this, I call it inside the dress-up closet. Maybe sometimes I'll be chatting with people in a closet, but today we're sitting here amongst the racks of your clothes here at your store. But what is your experience with closets and what you like to surround yourself with, maybe even here at the store or even personally at home? Like, how do you like to kind of set yourself up to be inspired with the clothes or accessories or anything around you?
I feel like I'm pretty disorganized. Like everything's usually a mess. I try to keep the store clean, but I feel like I gear towards more like whimsical, dreamy pieces, I would say. When I looked at my closet the other day, I was like, nothing really goes together. Like nothing ever really makes sense. So I feel like I'm very like eclectic in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, to me, that I could never embrace like a capsule wardrobe. Because I need all the ideas around me, which it is like, maybe they're not connected, but then I think that's what makes the magic often with the outfit.
I think so too.
Is all the mishmash of everything coming together.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know, essentials that you think are great to have in a closet, like not the basics, not a white tee and blah, blah, blah. Like, what do you think are the things that make the magic to the outfit? Just some. I mean, there's a million, but like for you personally, what are like the magic makers for an outfit?
For me, definitely a really good pair of denim. It's funny because I used to never be like a denim person at all. I hated wearing jeans. I was more like dresses and skirts, but like a nice pair of denim.
Which, can I get, did
These
you
are
have
old.
These on the other day? They have a pleat in
Yeah,
them.
they have a pleat in
I was
them.
going to be like, what are these jeans? 'Cause I
They're
need
old
to know.
Levi's.
Okay.
But I love the washing them because I love
Yeah.
like a dark,
wash.
indigo.
Yeah.
Statement coat because I love coats, which really makes no sense being in LA, but I still can't give them
I always
give
say,
them
though,
up.
it's chilly in the morning and it's chilly in the evening.
It's
you do
true.
need a layer in California.
It's
so
true,
even
it's
if we
true.
have to shed it halfway through the day,
Yeah.
you gotta have them.
Yeah. It's funny with my shoes. I feel like I always like rotate the same shoes for like 2 years, I would say. So like a really good knee-high boot or like over-the-knee boot, a good cowboy boot, a good like Mary Jane, I would say. And I love like vintage lingerie. Like I love layering vintage
Yes.
lingerie. I think that's like one of my staple go-tos because
Yeah.
it's just like pretty, whimsical,
Yeah.
dreamy.
I also feel like your pop of red lip is
That's true.
like a signature of your style.
It's funny because I was
Yeah.
with my nieces this past weekend, and one of them, she's like 5 years old. She's like, "Don't." When we were going to a baptism, she's like, "Don't forget to put on your red lip." And I was like, "Oh, thank you for
It
the
is
reminder."
the accessory to the outfit.
She's like,
yeah.
"You look so nice with it," and I was
Oh,
like, "Thank
love
you."
that. Yeah. Have you always done red lip? Or?
Pretty much, I
Yeah.
feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've always had like more of the platinum blonde hair.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little bit darker now. I feel like a few years ago I went like super white, and
Okay.
then I just sort of like let it grow out.
Yeah.
And
I love a red lip, and I try, and I feel like my lips are getting too old.
Really?
It doesn't work as well anymore. I need if you guys know, or if you know, I need a good red liner and lip because I always feel like I struggle to keep it on the lips and not
I probably
smear.
do too, honestly.
No, yours always looks really good. Let's get into inspiration. First, let's talk about just original inspirations for you, or if there's kind of like this consistent inspiration. Let's just start there.
I feel like I'm a really big cinema person. Like another thing growing up, I feel like I used to go to all like the artistic movies like by myself and go to the movie theater because I could never get my friends to go. But like I'm a huge Sofia Coppola fan because I felt like she really opened up like that whole girl gaze point of view in films
Yes.
and made everything like really pretty
I
to
sat
watch.
next to her in New York
Shut
just
up.
recently.
Wait, shut
yes, I
up.
literally went to Gemma in New York, and I was having brunch, and I walked in, and I was like, oh my gosh, Sofia Coppola.
I'm
right
so
there.
jealous.
I know. I was texting my friends that we were with, like, that's Sofia Coppola. Oh my gosh! And I think her sister Gia was with her too, randomly. So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I was had that moment where I was like, whoa,
I'm
this is
so
crazy.
jealous because I'm
Yeah.
like a huge super fan. I actually just saw Gia's movie, the
Oh,
Pam Anderson
yes.
one, which was really beautiful as well.
I was wondering on the inspiration of that because it looks
Oh my
magical whenever
God.
I say because it is kind of like old cinema.
They shot it on
style.
16 millimeter film, and they only had 18 days to shoot it, and a lot of it's all like handheld.
Oh, wow.
And then they created these special lenses, so like the center is focused, and then the outer rim is like blurred, which is really pretty, which I
a
like.
signature for you too. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'll see that.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
So cinema was a big inspiration for you. Was there Sofia Coppola? Was there a certain one of hers that you feel like really?
For sure, Virgin Suicides. I really liked Priscilla, Marie Antoinette. Yeah, those are like my top three. I like The Beguiled too.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's pretty.
Okay.
It's very like Edwardian, Victorian, like those white dresses and
Yeah.
super, super pretty. I mean, I feel like I grew up like glued to like style.com or the
Right.
magazines that would come out to watch like every single fashion show. That's like my favorite thing to do. Like I never get bored of it.
Yeah.
Like ever, ever, ever. And I feel like that comes through in how I like curate my vintage because I love sort of like translating what's currently going on in fashion with like the vintage that I
vintage, yeah.
have. So
Do you remember the style.com runway? And they would, who was that guy? He would always do the report. Like gray hair.
I know, what's his name?
And you can still find them.
Yeah.
And they're like this amazing, like he tells the story what inspired the designer and then they showed the show. And it was like this whole I would just like watch so many of those, and I think those original, well, not original, but the OG days of like the original blogging days, those like 07, 08, when just the beginning of everything was happening and they were sharing more.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it was like
even
all of a
more.
sudden the curtain opened a little bit. I don't know, it just feels like such a magical time.
No, it really was. I
Yeah.
feel like that was such a special time.
And I feel like girls like us who grew up in small towns, that seemed so far away to us. All of a sudden it felt,
So like attainable.
yeah, like, oh, this is what
Yeah.
happens. And I just, anything that I could get, that I could see behind the scenes or the story that went behind it or whatever, like that always just,
I know, because didn't you start because you were going to like build a store? I remember
Yeah.
first started when I following you, it was just like following your journey on like building
Yeah.
your own vintage store, which I thought was so cool.
yeah, I never opened the store, but living, I
Yeah.
guess, the always play dress up lifestyle all
Yeah.
the time. And then in terms of just inspiration currently for you now, is there anything that's sparking for you or that you've been thinking about a lot?
I love this 1950s magazine, Flair magazine. Like one of my, I'm like, do I have a copy
I know,
of it
we'll have
here?
to show it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But it didn't last for like a long period of time because it was too expensive to make. But it's basically like it wasn't completely fashion, but more of like arts and culture magazine. And they used like really great paper and cool cutouts. I've just never seen anything like it. And it still looks modern to
How
this
do you
day.
find it? Do you have
I
to like
find
go
them on eBay.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're like beautiful,
Ooh,
beautiful magazines.
I need to check that out.
I also love, I have one there, Violet
yeah.
magazine. It used to be Lula.
Oh yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
But I think a Japanese company bought Lula and
Okay.
then the editor started Violet.
Okay.
But it's like, again, super pretty, whimsical fashion. And it's also very girl gaze of like a lot of like articles on women and that sort of thing.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay,
which is
good.
really nice.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
Anything you're watching or reading or listening to that's inspiring you right now?
I feel like I'm always watching old movies. I feel like I started like a David Lynch marathon because he passed away. And I actually had never really seen a lot of his movies. But what did I watch last night? Blue Velvet. It's very
yeah.
like
Yeah.
surrealist and like a little bit like too dark for me, but I still
Yeah.
love looking at like all of the visuals and
So
things
if
like
you
that.
are looking at Flair or a movie like Blue Velvet or something like that, could you talk us through it all? Like maybe even think of a specific incident where you saw something and it sparked something for you, and then how you then translated that either through your store or styling or yourself.
Not even with Flair or the David Lynch thing, but when I went to Paris in November and I was watching, what is the movie? Chungking Express. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen that.
Let me make sure I get the name
Okay, yeah.
right. But one of the characters is this, I think she's sort of like a drug dealer, and she's an Asian woman and has this beautiful like bouffant hair. And I was like, this hair looks familiar. And I was like, it looks like Balenciaga's like one of their most like recent runway shows. They did the hair like in this bouffant style. I think I did like a TikTok on it because I'll better be able to like show you visually. So it was Balenciaga Resort
Okay.
25. So you can't really see the hair, but you
Yeah.
sort of see it. And then I saw some at a vintage store with all the brooches
Ooh,
on
yeah.
their fur vest, which they did. And then this is the hair from Chungking
Okay.
Express. So it was just sort of like putting all
Yeah.
of the references together. Like I love connecting the dots
Yeah.
like that. Like love it. It's like my
Yeah.
favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Did that come home to you in any way? Like, did you end up using any of that inspiration for yourself or anything that you've styled or not necessarily? I actually want to watch that now
It's
because
really, really
her
good.
style's
It's
amazing.
beautiful. It's so well done.
Yeah.
Like so well done. The imagery, and it's like a little bit blurred too as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, cool. I was just watching American Primeval, the new Western on Netflix.
Oh my gosh, I never even heard of
And
it.
it's very good. It's brutal, but it's good. But anytime I watch like a good Western, I'm so inspired. I love how they, even though I know this is like they wore these clothes for like 6 months at a time, but just like the jackets, and then they always belted them, and then the leather layers and I don't know. It's always so inspiring. I'm like, oh, I need to pull out some of my like Western again. So
I did this Substack about like the romance of the other and like why we always romanticize I feel like a lot of cultures romanticize like Western, and then we romanticize like the Parisian culture
Right.
type of thing, and why we want like
It's like the grass is greener.
on the other,
somehow or
something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, or
but
we didn't have to live through it, so we could just see like the beauty in it or something. Yeah. And then, do you do any kind of mood boarding or anything like
I
that?
still have this like sketchbook that I cut inspo from like magazines
Yes.
out of, and literally just tape them in there, and I still do that
Oh, that's awesome.
once in a while.
Okay.
I don't know
Anything
what
recently that you've mood boarded or put together?
Probably not like super recently, but yeah, I still go back to that book even just to look at like past references and things like that.
Yeah.
I also collect like a ton of fashion books and like sort of post it every
Yes.
single
Here,
single page.
yes, put the little mark in there of that I want to go back to it.
Yeah.
I feel like very similar. I'm like,
Yeah. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out like my 2025 style and what direction it's going to. I haven't been like crazy inspired yet, but maybe because I haven't taken the time to really
dive in.
dive in. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I feel very similarly. I always feel like January is this weird time where I'm like, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm inspired by. And even one reason that I started this series was that idea of like, I just want to hear other people. I like something, you know how like just something will spark and then all of a sudden you're on this train of like this whole fresh new inspiration or something, and you can kind of ride it for a while. But I have yet to find the train.
I'm still trying to figure it out right now, and I'm like, what's wrong with me?
I think we're just, we've also, it's been a weird time here in LA and everything.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the new year is like a weird shift, and it takes a while to kind of get your footing or whatever.
I will say I do love Alessandro at Valentino, like those collections.
I know.
And I went to go to the store to see them in real life, and they were so beautiful.
Which, it's so interesting because it's basically what he did at Gucci. With the Valentino signature and spin and all of that. But I'm so happy because I loved that. And I loved what he created, and I feel like we're getting it again, like rebirth or something.
I agree. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that it is like what he is doing is very Valentino, because he was a maximalist. And when you go to the store and look at each piece like individually, you can really see like 80s or 90s Valentino, like the original like signature pieces.
I want to know more about that because you know a lot about that.
I feel like it's sort of like everyone's like, oh, it's just like Gucci again. But no, I think he's like a true like creative genius.
Yes. Well, I just feel like he just brings magic. So I'm so happy. I was so sad when he was doing nothing. I was like,
I know. And I love that he like sticks to like who he is. That's like my favorite.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that's the most inspiring thing.
Yes, I know. Even just, I'm so inspired by, I was just listening to a podcast with Zach Posen, and he's over at Gap now even, which is very, he's doing like classic. But I get excited when I hear about people like coming in and bringing like a new life to something that has existed before, and just even, I don't know, again, looking at the stuff they're doing at Gap, it is like kind of more of that essentials, but it feels fresh in a way, and he's putting like this new spin on it. And I don't know, anytime that's happening, that I don't know what that is, but that makes me so excited. Like even Banana Republic has been reimagining themselves.
I mean, whoever their creative director is doing a very good job.
And that makes, I don't know, it just makes me so happy. Olympia over at J. Crew.
She's doing such a good job.
Yeah, such a good job. And talk about somebody who like, I feel like her mood boards like
oh my
are
gosh.
insane. I'm always like, wow, I want to create a mood board with you. Like,
I feel like she has like shoes hanging from it. I've saved a ton of her mood boards because I'm just
same.
like, whoa.
It's so good.
It's so impressive.
I know. I love it. It's just seeing behind that curtain again and like seeing the creativity. Anything happening right now for you in terms of like, we've just talked about, we're in the little bit of the like, what's going on? What are we inspired by? But anything new you've purchased you're excited about, or any like little styling thing you're doing lately for yourself that feels fresh and new?
I purchased these and I have them in my car. I can bring them out later. These really cool butterfly Valentino platforms from the Real for like $100, which I was super excited about.
Yeah.
I'm going through a phase of finding shoes on the Real because
Okay.
you can find really cheap designer
Good to know.
shoes on the Real.
Yeah.
I highly recommend. I will say though, I got these really cool Marc Jacobs like Mary Jane boots. They ended up breaking because they were like dry rotting, but it'll happen once in a while.
Yeah. Yes,
But
okay.
I'm obsessed with like the Valentino butterfly shoes. They're
Any
so
ideas
pretty.
of what you might do with them or style?
I want to do them with actually these jeans and like a colored tight underneath,
Oh,
and just
cute.
they're like a peep toe, so you can see the tight and stuff. That's like, I even like see them just like wearing a colored sweatshirt with these jeans, and then having like the cool shoes on the bottom.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing you do really well is the like juxtaposition, and I always feel like the other day you had on that like ruffle green skirt, I want to say, and then you had on
was a
you
red.
did the hoodie sweatshirt with
Oh yeah, hooded
maybe-
sweatshirt. It was like a blue hooded sweatshirt with this green. There's tulle underneath it,
Yes.
but it's like a green taffeta.
yes skirt. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
yeah.
And it was just I just loved it. It was like easy in a way, like it felt like I think also that's something I love with fashion is like. Yes, very out there and like sculpture or whatever, but I love when fashion feels like tangible.
Yeah,
or,
like
I don't-
wearable and stuff, like you could do it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it feels like whimsical and playful and I don't know. So I
Not
love
so serious.
Yeah, not so
Yeah.
serious. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like you do such a good job with that. And then in terms of your Substack, that is something that's amazing.
I love doing it, like absolutely love doing it. So I do it with one of my friends who's an amazing graphic designer, and we sort of came up with this idea that we would come out, like make it a magazine and come out with an issue. It's usually like every month, or sometimes it'll be every 2 months because it is a lot of work.
It's like you're creating a magazine every time. It's not just like
Yeah.
you wrote things and threw some images. It's like beautifully done, so well thought out. There's like a whole story and theme happening.
Very proud of it because
Yeah.
we put so much
Yes.
work into it, and people are like, "Why are you putting so much work? Is it really worth it?" But I was like, I actually
You
like
love it.
love doing
Yes,
it. Like I
yes.
love doing it. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
I feel like I could stay up all night just
Yeah.
like working on it.
Yeah.
But I feel like my friend and I. So he used to be a designer at like Club Monaco and Tom Brown and Jack Spade, so he's super creative as well. And we just when you like really sync up with someone and you sort of have like the same vision, and we just sort of go back and forth with ideas. Like our first issue was the Coquette Vampire one, almost
So
a year,
good. You
like
birthed
over a year
something for
ago.
me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and we like made up like a story about this character.
Yeah.
I went back and read it the other day, and I was like, "Whoa, I can't believe I made that up."
So I think about it all the time.
It was like I must have been in one of those like stream of
Yeah.
consciousness,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it.
It's so great.
I'm trying to
And
figure out how I can like evolve it, like
I feel
even
like-
more with like interviews. Like I'd love to
Yeah.
interview you for it, or just like get more creatives
Yeah.
involved.
I think when you announced it, you were saying something about how like you miss the magazines and you want to kind of like bring back the era of the magazine, and that's what it feels like. It feels like this like spark whenever I get it. I'm always like, ooh, okay, what is it this time? Like, what's the
Yeah.
story? Or you did recently the slow dance.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I had this idea of like making a slow dance video because I feel like no one really slow dances anymore, and it's such like an intimate. It doesn't even necessarily have to be like sexual or super romantic, but
Right.
it's like just like an intimate moment between
Yeah.
two people. And it was actually inspired through like sort of a short-lived like relationship and how like close you can be with someone, and then you just sort of like go your separate ways.
I love it. Well, so
Yeah.
everyone needs to subscribe to Chelsea's Substack, which is just called Chelsea's Substack.
It's just chelseavonmach.com,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
call the magazine like store magazine.
Yeah, store.
Yeah.
But you call the store too.
Pretty much.
Which I
yeah.
love it.
I know. I'm trying to figure out my branding still, but I feel like everything's sort of like under my name. And
Yeah.
then like whatever.
I feel like it's kind of like a palette, like a clean palette. I always think of fashion that way. Like in some way, I want the palette, I want the base, and then you add all of the magic on top of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the store
Yeah.
is like, here it is, and then kind of the magic is like
Exactly.
infused into the store. So I like that idea, just like this open palette that can be painted all over.
Yeah.
Create magic with
I
it.
love that. I love that.
Okay, well, we're going to, I guess, real quick before we wrap up. Thank you, first of all, for just
Thanks
sitting
for
and
having
chatting
me.
with me. This is so much fun, and I could honestly just like keep chatting.
So could I.
On and on and on. Everyone can find you here at the store.
The store,
which
West
is in,
Adams, 5124 West Adams.
and we'll put all the information down below, and then your Substack as well, and then Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Which you're just still
Chelsea Von Mach.
Von
Yeah.
Mach on Instagram as well. And I'll put Chelsea's links down below for that. And then we're actually doing a whole separate video that you guys can tune into that I'm calling Inside the Dress Up Closet Comes Alive. And we're gonna come alive and actually kind of bring to life some of the things that we talked about today and let you guys in on a whole nother level of inspiration. So that will be really fun. You can tune into that video as well, and then click the link down below to watch that. So thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Inside the Dress Up Closet with Chelsea Von Mach. Always play dress up. Bye.